It is written in the ancient medical scriptures of them Dan that a heart possessed by cold energy is a curse without a cure. For Hua Jiechu, the imperious chairwoman of the Fiancé group and heiress to the first family of the Cha, this was not just a legend, it was her reality. Her life was a ticking clock, frozen in ice, until the day fate intervened on a winding road. Her car spun out of control, a metal beast careening toward destruction. But death did not come. Instead, a man named Luclay appeared. With inexplicable strength, he halted the vehicle, pulling her from the wreckage not just with physical might, but with a presence that seemed to calm the erratic beating of her failing heart. "I am the heiress of the Hua family," she insisted, her pride demanding she repay the debt. "Let me reward you." Luckily, a man of humble attire but regal bearing, simply shook his head. "Meeting is fate. Saving you is destiny. I require no payment." He vanished as quickly as he appeared, leaving Hua Jiechu with a miraculous sensation. For the first time in years, the cold in her chest had subsided. She knew then that she had to find him. Meanwhile, the Zhang family was drowning in unearned glory. Zhang Guianso, a woman of ambition, but little insight, was celebrating a multi-billion-dollar contract with the prestigious Van Duan Group. The family attributed their sudden rise to luck and their own brilliance, completely unaware of the shadow that had protected them for a decade. When Luclay arrived at the banquet, he was not welcomed as a savior, but sneered at as a beggar. He had returned after 10 years of silence, years spent secretly manipulating the winds of fortune to aid the Zhang family from the shadows. "He disappeared when we were starving," Zhang Guianso accused, her eyes cold. "And now that we are royalty, you return for a handout." Luclay stood calm amidst the storm of insults. "I left to change your fate," he said quietly. "The great snow of Thunkev 7 years ago. That was me. The business miracles. That was me. I am the one they call the Banished Fairy Churchton of Mount Kunlun." Laughter erupted. The Zhang family, blinded by greed, turned their adoration toward Duan Hao Duan, a deceptive executive who claimed credit for Luclay's work. He presented a fake snow heart necklace, and the family fawned over the glass trinket, rejecting the true dragon standing before them. It was then that Hua Jiechu stepped in. Radiating power, she silenced the room. "You have eyes but cannot see Mount Tai," she declared, looking at the Zhang family with pity. "I am willing to trade 60 of my empire just to invite Mr. Luke to my home." The Zhang family mocked her, calling her blind. But Luclay looked at Hua Jiechu, and for the first time, he saw someone who understood value beyond surface appearances. The betrayal was finalized when Zhang Guianso threw away the grass ring, symbol of their childhood promise, and accepted the fake diamond from Juan. From this moment, Luclay's voice resonated like a judgment from the heavens. "The fate between me and the Zhang family is severed. I take back the luck I gave. I take back the protection." He snapped the bank card they despised, the sound echoing like a thundercloud. "You think I am useless? Watch your empire crumble." As he left with Hua Jiechu, the Zhang family laughed, believing themselves invincible, unaware that the chairman of Van Duan Group, the richest man in the land, was already moving to cancel every contract, solely because his master, Luclay, had been insulted. At the Hua Manor, tragedy struck. Hua Jiechu's grandfather, the patriarch, lay dying. A divine doctor named Lai was treating him, but the old man was fading fast. Luclay stepped forward. "The cold has entered his heart. It can save him." Hua Jiechu's uncle, a man of petty arrogance, tried to throw Luclay out, trusting only the famous doctor. But Hua Jiechu stood firm. "If he fails, I will give up my inheritance. But let him try." Luclay performed the ancient green bag acupuncture, inserting 8 needles that stabilized the old man's soul. But the moment Luclay left, the arrogant uncle pulled the needles out, claiming they were nonsense. Immediately, the grandfather vomited blood. The divine doctor Lai, upon seeing the technique, turned pale. He realized too late that the young man was using a lost, legendary art. "You fools," Dr. Lai screamed at the Hua family. "You chased away a true immortal. Only he can save him now." They begged Luclay to return. And he did not for their sake, but for the filial piety of Hua Jiechu. With a wave of his hand and the final needle, he pulled the patriarch back from the gates of death. The divine doctor knelt before Luclay, begging to be his disciple. To thank him, Hua Jiechu invited Luclay to the ultra-exclusive Van Man Cloud River Hotel. Fate has a cruel sense of humor. Duan Hao Duan and Zhang Guianso were there as well. Duan, flaunting a VIP gold card, tried to have Luclay expelled for being poor. "This place is for the elite," Duan sneered. "A beggar like you isn't worthy of breathing this air." The hotel manager, fearing Duan's status, moved to kick Luclay out. But then, the general manager arrived, trembling in fear. He bypassed Duan and bowed deeply to Luclay. Mr. Luck, the general manager stammered. You are the supreme guest of our owner. Luck Lai looked at the shocked crowd. Whose rule is it that the poor cannot eat here? It was an old rule, the manager stuttered. Change it. Luckily commanded. From today on, delivery workers, cleaners, anyone who is hungry can enter. True nobility is in the heart, not the wallet. When Duong tried to use his card again, the machine beeped, invalid. He had been fired and blacklisted by the Van Duong group instantly. The Jung family stood in the lobby, humiliated, watching the man they discarded ascend to the highest private room, accompanied by the most powerful woman in the city. As they dined, Huo Jiaxu revealed a looming threat. The Orchid Pavilion feast is approaching. The capital's elite are gathering to worship the banished fairy. But she hesitated. They believe a criminal named Deepo Som is the fairy. They plan to capture you, the imposter, and offer you as a sacrifice to him to curry favor. Luck Lai sipped his tea. Unbothered. Let them try. A dragon does not fear the schemes of ants. Hua Jiaxu smiled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. I know you are not afraid, but to navigate this social trap without revealing your true power too soon. I have a proposal, and that is, lend me your body heart, she whispered, leaning in. Pretend to be my husband. Let us walk into the Orchid Pavilion together and watch them tremble when the truth is revealed. Luck Lai looked at the woman who had stood by him when the world turned its back. For the first time in 10 years, the banished fairy smiled. Very well, Miss Hua. Let the play begin. The atmosphere at the Land and Orchid Pavilion feast was thick with deceit. The great families of the capital had gathered not to honor a god, but to flatter a fraud. They believed the man sitting on the high throne, Deepo Som, was the legendary banished fairy of Mount Kunlun. Luck Lai walked into the hall, hand in hand with Hua Jiaxu. They were immediately met with a wall of scorn. To the elite, Luck Lai was a beggar in a suit, a stain on their pristine gathering. You dare show your face? Triu Minicheng, the arrogant heir of the Triu family, sneered. Today, I will offer the banished fairy 1,000-year-old ginseng. What can a fake like you possibly offer? Your life. When the time for the offering of gifts arrived, treasures of immense value were displayed, mountains of gold, rare islands, and ancient pearls. Luck Lai stepped forward calmly. He placed a wooden box on the table. Inside lay a broken jade comb and an old bronze mirror. Laughter erupted, shaking the rafters. A broken comb, a rusting mirror. He insults the immortal, but the mocking laughter died in their throats when the High Minister, Duke Hak Min, stepped forward to appraise the items. His hands trembled as he touched the jade. You fools, the minister whispered, his voice cutting through the silence. This is no ordinary jade. This is the Hishibai, the material used to carve the imperial seal. This comb represents the authority of emperors. He turned to the mirror. And this is the mirror. On the throne, the imposter Deepo Som turned pale. He knew the legend. The mirror revealed the true form of any evil it reflected. Look into it, Luck Lai commanded, his voice echoing with a power that needed no shouting. Deepo Som tried to look away, but the mirror's gaze was inescapable. In the reflection, there was no immortal aura, only the terrified face of a criminal who had escaped prison. The illusion shattered. High Minister, Deepo Som screamed. Arrest this man. Arrest Luck Lai. Duke Hak Min bowed low not to the man on the throne, but to Luck Lai. Subordinate Duke Hak Min, the minister declared, kneeling before the young man everyone had despised, pay his respects to the true banished fairy. The room plunged into chaos. The Triu family, who had bet everything on the fake, collapsed in despair. The Jung family, who had insulted Luck Lai just moments before, watched in horror as their useless orphan was revealed to be the master of the nation's fate. With a wave of his hand, Luck Lai stripped the corrupt families of their wealth, ordering it to be distributed to the poor. Justice was swift, absolute, and terrifying. Just as the dust settled, a new storm arrived in Thangzhou. Tu Tiu, the long-lost father of Hua Jiaxu, returned from the north. He was no longer the poor man who had fled 20 years ago. He was now the Northern Emperor, a warlord of terrifying power. He loved his daughter fiercely, but his trauma blinded him. He looked at Luck Lai and saw only a frail boy, unworthy of protecting his precious child. To marry my daughter, Tu Tiu thundered, his presence filling the room like a physical weight. You must be a grandmaster of martial arts. Can you catch a bullet? Can you kill with a whisper? If not, leave her. I am not a grandmaster, Luck Lai replied calmly. But the sky is vast, and you are looking at it from the bottom of a well. Infuriated by Luck Lai's arrogance, Tu Tiu invited the entire city to the Kunpeng feast, intending to crush the boy's spirit by showing him the true terror of the martial world. The feast turned into a nightmare. A Japanese sword saint, claiming to be a cultural ambassador, arrived to challenge the martial artists of the nation. He was a monster in human skin, defeating the Northern Emperor's strongest generals with a single finger. "Kneel," the sword saint roared, his hand hovering over his katana. "I will count to 10. Anyone standing when I draw my sword will die." The pressure was suffocating. The Jun family, spineless as ever, were the first to kneel, abandoning their dignity to save their lives. But Titiu stood tall. Hua Jiachu stood with him. They chose death over dishonor. 1, the invader counted. Suddenly, Luck Lai stepped forward. He walked past the trembling crowd, past the kneeling traitors, and stood face to face with the sword saint. The invader laughed. "You want to die first? Draw your sword," Luck Lai said softly. "If you can pull it from its sheath, I will spare your life." The sword saint sneered and gripped his hilt. He pulled. Nothing happened. He pulled harder, veins popping on his forehead. The sword remained stuck. It wasn't rusted. It was terrified. The spirit of the steel sensed the presence of a terrestrial immortal, a being so powerful that weapons refused to be drawn against him. "What are you?" The sword saint stammered, sweat pouring down his face. "Kneel," Luck Lai whispered. The sheer pressure of his aura slammed into the invader like a falling mountain. The sword saint collapsed, his knees shattering against the floor. "I am Luck Lai," he announced, his voice calm yet resonating across the entire city. "I am the banished fairy of Kunlun." The revelation was like a nuclear bomb. Chu Tiu, the Northern Emperor, stared in shock. The boy he thought was weak was actually a being that even emperors worshipped. The Jun family lay on the floor, weeping. Jian Migayan so looked up at the man she had discarded. She realized too late that the useless boy who had lived in her house for 10 years was the dragon who had secretly given her everything. She had traded a god for a fake diamond. Her regret was an abyss with no bottom. The invaders were arrested. The traitors were exiled. Peace returned to Tao, warmer and brighter than before. Du Tiu, humbled and awed, approached Luck Lai. "I was a fool," the warlord admitted. "I asked for a grandmaster, and you brought me an immortal. Is my daughter safe with you?" Luck Lai smiled, looking at Hua Jiachu. "Safe. I would burn the heavens to keep the snow off her shoulders." He turned to Hua Jiachu and pulled out a small, woven grass ring, the same simple ring he had kept for years, the one Jian Migayan so had thrown in the trash. "I promise to become the strongest in the world to protect you," Luck Lai said, slipping the ring onto her finger. "I have kept my word. Will you walk this path with me?" Hua Jiachu wept, not from sadness, but from a joy that overflowed her soul. She hugged him, burying her face in his chest. "Whether you are a beggar or God," she whispered, "I have always been yours." And in that moment, the cold that had plagued her heart for a lifetime finally melted away, replaced by the eternal warmth of spring.